Hello everyone, my name is Mark Ellis and welcome back to the Tomatometer Reveal Show. This week's subject, it's a good one, Daredevil, Born Again. It's me, and it's Hector Navarro from the incredibly popular YouTube channel, Heroes Reforged. Hector, how we doing, bud?
Oh my gosh, my knuckles are cracked, and I'm ready to talk about Daredevil. Are you kidding me? Brought me on for the perfect episode.
That is, I feel like I am the Foggy to your Matt, because you're an expert in this world, and you love all things Daredevil, and so in just a few minutes, we're actually going to be revealing the initial Tomatometer score for Daredevil Born Again, which is just now starting to stream on Disney+. It's an exciting time when you're like, then you think about a show that like you and I were actually rooting for this show to be great. And so there's a little bit of pressure, there's a little bit of tension going around the studio right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was also lucky enough to see the entire first season already. No spoilers, no spoilers. But I'm remembering the before time when I hadn't seen the first episode of this, and I was very, very nervous for a bunch of different reasons. This is the show that had kind of a creative overhaul. And I just want to say that I had a blast watching it, and I can't wait to talk about some of our feelings in this anticipatory time.
It's been such a huge transition. When you think about going from Netflix to Disney+, where the show is now, that was the least of the concerns. You had a strike to deal with, you had a pandemic to deal with. There's so many different starts and stops, but you hope that it feels seamless once you actually get to watch the show.
Yeah.
Before we get into this particular show, what has been your relationship with Daredevil? When did you start hearing about the character when you were a wee tyke?
Oh, great question. I remember my Marvel Daredevil sort of knowledge, I think first came from, like a lot of people my exact age, from the 1990s Spider-Man animated series. Because that show, although it was a great show, and you go back and watch it, I think it holds up. It might not hold up as well as X-Men, for example. And then we cut to 2015. I remember the hype for the Netflix series that was coming out, this Marvel Television, ABC Television production, set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even though it wasn't being made by Marvel Studios proper. It was still something that was like referencing the Avengers, movie. It was referencing the Chitauri attack. It was part of the reason that Kingpin was trying to build up the buildings in New York City, kind of like the real estate side of that character.
There was a lot of pressure on that show to kind of carry the torch onto another medium that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't really do as well.
And now we've got a show that I think everybody involved knows what they're trying to recapture. And they're not afraid of trying to hit that tone.
And it's one of those exciting things because you talk about the Netflix series, 92% on the Tomatometer for all 3 seasons combined. And even though we were young in 2015, we're going to go to somebody whose title is Senior Review Curator, but he's in the prime of his life. He's Rob Fowler. Rob, I know we don't quite have a Tomatometer yet because I didn't hear the bell, but I just wanted to check in with you and how things are going on your floor. You look like my innie. How are you doing with these last minutes before we get that Tomatometer announcement?
Hey guys, we're doing great. We're currently hydrated, caffeinated, and knee-deep in some reviews. I'm here right now with my fellow curator, Dom Pembleton.
Hello.
Hey Dom. And currently we're aggregating. Review embargoes are a unique part of the job where suddenly dozens of reviews for the same title all drop at the same time across the internet. So it's a real rush catching them all. Currently, we're trying to add all the ones that are addable from our end. The rest will be self-submitted by the critics themselves or the editor of their publication. And so it's very intense. I think we're going to have an update for you very shortly.
I have a question for Rob.
Go ahead,
okay. Can I ask Rob? Hector here. I just wanted to know, as an outsider looking in, do you know if there are, for example, more reviews coming in for Daredevil Born Again, which I think, in 2025 is maybe going to have more eyeballs on it than there were eyeballs in 2015 on a show and on a character that I love, but maybe was not the A-list character that he sort of grew to be. Do you know if there are more reviews coming in than there were initially for the 2015 Netflix Daredevil Season 1, for example?
That's a very good question. Well, certainly there are more eyeballs. Part of it also, though, is that there's a changing landscape of how many publications cover television, how many critics they have on staff. So I think it comes out in the wash to, especially for an embargo, about equal. Now, something to keep in mind, though, is that for a water cooler television show like Daredevil, we have episodic reviews. Some critics choose to review each episode week to week, and we accommodate that by adding the reviews on the episodic level. Now, for the purposes of the embargo itself, everything's going to go on the season level tonight. And then with each passing week, the ones that are episodic, where the critic reviews each episode, we're going to transition them to there on the episode level. And, you know, for a show like Daredevil, high likelihood that each episode will unlock a score. And so you can see over the course of the season with each successive episode, the score changing depending on the reception to each episode. So it's going to be an evolving thing, the Tomatometer.
It's a living, breathing organism, as are you, Rob. So make sure you stay hydrated, stay well nourished, and we are going to check back with you shortly. When you talk to Rob and he's in one of these scenarios, it's almost like he's a security guard about to open the doors for Black Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Because all of these reviews are coming in. And when he speaks about an embargo, that's just the time when, the studio has a time when you can't release your review to the world until said time. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we're waiting on for all these reviews to come in, which should just be a matter of minutes from now. We're going to be back with Rob shortly. Hector, one of the things that we were kind of chatting about right before we rolled cameras was the tone shift that fans were thinking could happen between something as a Netflix show where that can go versus something Disney Plus. Sure. I feel like in interviews I've seen and conducted with Charlie Cox, with Vincent D'Onofrio and the cast and crew, it seems like they're all really excited because they read this script and they said, oh, we're not holding anything back. Yeah. After having seen the show, is that something you can sort of confirm a little bit?
Yes. I want to say just my own personal experience, again, no spoilies, is that the other thing I think as a fan, too, that I really recognized was a while ago, a few years ago, whenever the streaming actually shifted from these shows living and breathing on Netflix to, hey, now they're on Disney Plus itself. That was a real indicator that, like, this company is not necessarily scared of embracing this tone when it fits the right character, when it fits the right setting, when they have their little parental controls or whatever. The question is this show as brutal violently, story-wise aside, because the story, that's a whole nother conversation, but just in terms of just the sheer thrill of seeing blood on the screen, is it as violent as what came before?
And sometimes in a long shot where it's a hallway or it's a stairwell. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we live for with this show.
Listen. Me and my friends have an inside joke. You know what we call it? We call it hallway putazos, which means that Daredevil is going to get to some business. We even got a little bit of that in She-Hulk. Don't forget, when there was a hallway present in She-Hulk Attorney at Law, we got some hallway putazos there. Daredevil really did not hold back, even in that kind of PG-13 setting. So yes, I was happy to see that violence, that gore, that blood. It's there. It is sometimes shocking, the same as the Netflix tone. The really exciting thing is to see how a character like that, much like Deadpool, who's a very rated R character, if these characters will ever cross over in the future to a more PG-13 like Avengers movie or something like that. That's going to be fun. But there's already in this show some acknowledgement of the Marvel Cinematic Universe of the past couple of years. It's not just an extension of what came before in the Netflix show, but it's also like, yes, we had Matt Murdock, he was a very good lawyer in Spider-Man No Way Home. We had the Kingpin show up in Hawkeye, which then led into Echo. Those sorts of elements are definitely acknowledged in this show. So it's great to see that kind of mixing of all those tones.
And it all feels like it's been leading up to this moment where we get little sprinklings of these characters, and now they're about to take center stage. And we just heard that bell. And so before we go back to Rob, Hector, you have the final word. It is time for your prediction. What do you think this show is going to land at?
You know, I was driving into the studio today. My prediction was maybe a little lower, but just talking out loud right now, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go strong 97%.
97%?
97% on this one.
And now we go to Rob Fowler for the moment of truth, the Tomatometer reveal. What is Daredevil Born Again premiering at, and how did we arrive at this number?
Hey guys, so we have a live populating score. Daredevil Born Again is 77% with 35.
Okay!
Whoa!
Okay!
Whoa! That's devastating.
Rob, put a good spin on this because the folks in the room are getting a little nervous at a score that low, even though it's still fresh.
Right. Well, for context, going off the tenor of the reviews, if a lot of the things you love about the original 3 seasons of Daredevil are still intact. This is not a reboot. It doesn't jettison all the things people like about the first couple seasons of Daredevil. Vincent D'Onofrio is still an absolute highlight, and his character has a very interesting arc in this season. In terms of why it's 77%, some of the more mixed reviews touch on the fact that it was publicized that the show had a change of showrunners during it, and some reviews remark that you can tell the changing of the creative direction. An example would be Alan Sepinwall from Rolling Stone said, "As a whole, it's a Frankenstein monster of a season with various parts stitched together in ungainly fashion. However, there are many reviews that say it's a terrific, ambitious political season." Another example would be Matt Jewell of Boston Globe saying, "A worthy follow-up to its predecessor, Born Again is a violent crime thriller by way of courtroom drama that's for adults only. Gritty but polished, it marks a sea change for Marvel." So it's an incredibly ambitious season. It's a real tonal change for the MCU thus far. Some of the more mixed reactions, I think, find that there's pacing issues with the number of episodes and length of episodes. But overall, this is a positive score. And I also just want to note that the score will evolve over time. As I noted earlier about episodics informing the score, this is the first wave of reviews. There will be more overnight and tomorrow. So, yeah, at first blush, though, it is 77% with 35 reviews.
It's that proverbial, we're still counting ballots.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I just want to speak from my own personal point of view. I wonder if any of this is also, Rob was mentioning earlier that the landscape of reviewing television has definitely changed in 10 years. 10 years since the original Netflix show first premiered. And I wonder if we've got, some folks that are watching the show now that might not have really lined up and synced up with the tone of the original Netflix show.
And Hector, maybe got a little too ambitious with your initial Tomatometer assessment of where Daredevil Born Again would be.
Yeah.
But as we close the season of Daredevil BA, and everybody's been able to check it out, do you think that Tomatometer is going to notch up a tick or notch down?
I honestly think it'll probably stay around the same, because my impression of the entire season was that it was pretty consistent with itself. Even knowing that there was a creative overhaul and some changes kind of brought in, it felt really, really consistent all the way through. And I also think that the show ends on a real strong finale, season finale. So does that mean that the score is going to go up? Maybe, maybe not. I think that it'll mostly stay, with what we've seen so far.
He is Hector Navarro, and you can find him on social media at Hector is Funny, and make sure you check out his great YouTube channel, Heroes Reforged. And I hear that if you're perusing eBay for some collectibles, you may bump into your favorite new seller on the block.
Yeah.
That would be Hector as well. For the whole gang here at Rotten Tomatoes, Rob Fowler, Hector Navarro, my name is Mark Ellis. Let us know your thoughts right now in the comments on Daredevil Born Again. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Is that 77% on the Tomatometer just right? And we'll see you next time right here at the Tomatometer Reveal Show.